Good morning, Samoa, and welcome to Star Trek Discovery, Season 5, Episode 5, Mirrors, where I don't have a start to that prepped. Usually I have a segue, and I don't know what to do now. Oh yeah, it's... Discovery is interesting, right? I'm so used to my fan base, you know, the audience. There's a core audience that often comes for all of these seasons, all these series. And generally, we all agree. Like, even if I have opinion that's somewhat controversial, or like even goes against what most fans would say, the action generally like, yeah, I agree. Like, this makes sense. I've been over it a lot, but it's been weird recently with Discovery. I kind of seem to differ with my own fan base a lot. I don't know. I don't attract, like, Discovery haters, really, who are just gonna, like, hate everything. Because I do say some, like, positive stuff. Or, sorry, not Discovery haters. Modern Star Trek haters in general. So I'm quite positive about, like, at least half the series. And I got good stuff to say about, like, all of them. But... like, Discovery is where I seem to diverge even from my own fan base, who's often really negative. But, in true Discovery fashion, probably going against my fan base, this was a pretty good episode. Not great, probably, I think Discovery is probably, the balance of, like, show don't tell and some sort of things like that, a lack of subtlety that is stopping a lot of Discovery from being great, and honestly, the serialized nature. I think I'd be enjoying this season a lot more if it was episodic. Like, totally. There wasn't this overarching plot. It's good. I'm enjoying it, you know? Do I even have some I guess I've got some minor complaints this episode, but probably not a whole lot to actually be talking about. God, I was about to say something. I was going to segue into that, and now I don't remember it all. But yeah, overall thoughts on the episode. I knew going in, actually, I hear whispers on the wind, about what are going to be in these episodes. I honestly don't understand how. But, I knew there was going to be the ISS Enterprise. I actually spotted that. From a news article, because I forgot not to look for news articles because they're so not talked about. No one talks about this season of Discovery. The only time people, like, the news has talked about it is because they brought back the progenitors, which are TNG. And I had, and we knew kind of whimpers. There were whispers in the wind of like some sort of Mirrors universe episode. I mean, there is an episode literally called Mirrors. I was expecting this. And I knew they'd do Breen stuff. I knew there'd be Breen. And generally, I'm on board for exploring the Breen. I don't think we've done it still as much as I would quite like. I mean, factually, we have learned a fair amount of the Breen that I don't think we knew before. Because the Breen are interesting, right? The Breen are an episode that are, like, technically... a race that are technically a huge part of Deep Space Nine, late Deep Space Nine. And I believe it's pretty common to finish Deep Space Nine and actually forget about the Breen. On my second watch-through of Deep Space Nine, I was so confused. Which, by the way, this was not long after my first watch-through of Deep Space Nine. Because I watched... there was no modern Star Trek, but oops. Oh my goodness, sorry, come here. I dropped my water bottle on the dog. Come back here. You can go to sleep by my feet. Oh, he's okay. He's looking at me now. He's fine. He's fine. But, yeah, I watched Star Trek in the order it was released, except TOS was last for reasons. And then, like, immediately after that, I think I did a chronological watch-through. There's probably, like, a year and a half between my first and second watch-through of Deep Space Nine. But the Breen showed up in Deep Space Nine, and I was like, I don't remember them at all. I was so confused. I was like, how is this whole race I forgot about? This, like, major race just, like, now in Deep Space Nine. It was the most confusing thing ever. So I'm for being fleshed out. I think it's kind of cool. It could be cool to be watching Deep Space Nine and then know more about them later, especially with this 800 year gap we're in Deep Space Nine. Their redesign, this is pretty good. This is probably the best redesign of the modern Star Trek era. I mean, they've got. If I have a complaint, I'd probably put a little bit more color. Like, put a little bit, like a different shade of brown or something, because that's very one color. But you've got 900 years between their only other appearance and now, so you'd expect change. And let's all be honest, I'm surprised Deep Space Nine got away with literally just taking a Star Wars costume and making it a race. This isn't a joke. That's actually what happened. If somehow you don't know, Star Trek Breen in Star Wars. If somehow you don't know, this is the design philosophy for the Breen. There you go. Whoops. You got Princess Leia and the Breen. Lucasfilms might have allowed that. I don't think Disney would have allowed that. But also, by the way, made it really confusing in my second watch through Deep Space Nine. Like, how the hell is there this new race, but also it's Star Wars? So this is fine. In fact, actually, let's get that back up. I want to do some comparisons. I don't believe the way I've set up my stream. I'm pretty sure I can't do this where you can also see it. But I'm going to set up, just compare the two. Star Trek Breen, which is probably now not going to have the search results I want. It is actually interesting that they've made this little front bit a lot smaller. It's pretty flush with the face, where before it was much more like a nose. And generally, they've made it fit to like a bald human head a lot more, where it used to be clunkier and bigger. Easily, this could have been just, 900 years technology gets smaller. I wish they'd maintained something a slightly more alien, like especially that ventilation thing. I get how it would be smaller, this little nose piece. But it's not bad, it's fine. I really like this Breen architecture, which I think we've only really seen their ships. But I think they did a good job carrying the Breen aesthetic over. I like their station. So pretty good job. As for the look itself, I don't mind. Some people have complained, I've seen, that like it removes the mystery. I don't care. Whoops-a-daisies, I'm still showing that. I mean, I don't think there was too much mystery behind it anyway. Especially given their look was literally just Princess Leia, Bounty Hunter, Star Wars. Let's find a better frame. Maybe you could make it a bit more alien. Actually, you know what it does look like? It's the Orville. It's like the Krill? What do they look like? Oh, no, it's very different from the Krill. Never mind. That was my memory being wrong. But yeah, I don't know. I'm fine. I'm on board. I wish we got to see more of the Breen. Again, I think this is a problem with just the structure of Discovery. It doesn't allow for a lot of hanging out with the alien races and getting to know them. I've really been kind of trying to think why I feel the original Star Treks are different. Because part of it is got to be there's just so much more classic Star Trek that, of course, we know more about the races from then than we do now. But I think it's part of it's the episode count as well. Like, we don't get an episode where we like go do some Klingon politics on Kronos anymore, because we just don't have time with these bigger narratives and these bigger structures. if every series was in the same era, like all of them were Lower Decks to Picard timeline range, then yeah, I think we'd probably get some. But because we're spread out in the timelines so much, which I don't think is a bad thing at all, it just give us more episodes. Give us more episodes and give us episodic episodes. But yeah, I'm for looking at the Breen a bit more. They were always like they're the only major power besides maybe the Tholians we don't know anything about. And it feels weird. And even then, the Tholians are kind of only a major power because they come up in beta canon a lot, don't they? I think modern Star Trek has referenced them a few times. But yeah, I'm all for looking at the Breen a bit more. Doing our scene by scene, because I think this is going to be probably the best way to get into it. I don't have too many comments on the early part of the episode. It's exactly what I'm sure everybody expected from the ending of the last episode. I don't think we've seen this since Riker and Picard. Arguably Archer and T'Pol, I guess. But the sort of, hey, you're the captain, you shouldn't really be going on these missions, baby. I don't know, I felt closer to a lot of the classic Star Trek stuff that we've been missing in this scene. Which is great. I do find it a bit odd, however, how Rayner, who is evidently neither Vulcan or Romulan, I don't know if I've missed lines, or Discovery is so bad at characterization we don't even know what species the character is till halfway through the series they're introduced. But I don't really understand why he seems kind of nervous and trepidatious about command. Like, up until literally now, he's been characterized as, I guess, incredibly confident in his command style and authoritative, and an incredibly experienced and decorated captain, like just commander in general, but yeah, this is captain or commander rank. Like award-winning, he's good at what he does, and this guy knows it. Rayner knows it. Like, I think he's supposed to be nervous because he's unsure how to fit into the post-burn world. But I don't understand why his character wouldn't fall back, at the very least in like an outward appearance, on, you know, the amazing captain that he is. It felt really weird that he was so nervous to the point of like, I don't actually know if I can command this ship when you're gone. The mission, Rayner, is to sit there. That's the mission. That's your mission. It felt kind of out of nowhere and weird. And it just wasn't developed enough or it's just out. It's either out of character or it wasn't developed enough to really understand why this guy. I guess I can kind of understand why he might have misgivings. I don't understand at all why he'd actually show them, let alone internally they would be such a big concern that he does, like, he goes to the captain about potentially not being able to do this. Moving forward to everyone's shock that they can't actually communicate with the shuttle after they already experienced interference and couldn't probe into the anomaly. Weird. But let's get into the meat, right? ISS Enterprise. So, bit of homework, because I actually had to go to the buffer time chat to get a reminder, because if you're like me, you would remember that in the Mirror universe, Saru was eaten by Michael Burnham and Georgiou. So I was like, how did Saru rescue, lead a rebellion after being eaten? Are Kelpians just that durable? But someone reminded me that the two-parter in Season 3, the worst 2 episodes of Season 3, so I'm not surprised if you'd forget them, where Georgiou goes to the Mirror universe, she actually saves Saru, and Carl, our Guardian of Forever friend, apparently he says that the mirror universe that has the events that, whatever Giorgio changed, that mirror universe would continue to exist separately from the mirror universe of every other episode of Star Trek. So there is still a mirror universe where Saru got eaten, but this Enterprise is from the sort of divergent mirror universe that was created from the season 3 episode. And in fact, in that episode, Carl said that Saru would go on to save many lives, and now he has. The reason I bring that up after asking the Stranger Worlds Enterprise, I like that this gives us a bit of a cheeky out as to why it's not the TOS Enterprise. It doesn't make a lot of sense why that may be, but I'm going to take my out. Because I know, and I have known, since like Ephraim and Dot, that the intent of the writers, it's been shown time and time again without being like explicitly stated, is that this Strange New Worlds Enterprise is meant to have been what the Enterprise always looked like, except the movies, of course, where it just looked like this. And not what we see in TOS. Now, I'm on the positive side of the scale for the Strange New Worlds Enterprise. I think overall, I've got complaints. I've voiced them in Strange New Worlds. I think overall, it does a pretty good job, especially the bridge set, of showing you the Enterprise as you remember it. I think it's got a lot of cozy rooms. A lot of rooms are too spacious. The sick bay, the cafeteria. The outside is a good blend between the original TOS-1 and the Motion Picture Enterprise. So it's a damn shame that that's not at all what the Enterprise is. The exterior is actually my biggest problem with the Strange New Worlds Enterprise. But that has always been under the understanding that we're analyzing it in the context of this is what the ship looked like before TOS. I'm willing to say that we're just overrided the cage, is that that's just what it always looked like in the cage. Come on, somebody. Give me the Enterprise. No bloody A, B, C, or D. There we go. I'm willing to say it just looked like that in the cage, because honestly, otherwise we just get too complicated. But if we start saying the Enterprise always looked like that, then I will go take a hammer to this flaming dumpster fire that's overriding arguably the most iconic thing to iconic. Like, is there a thing in media that gets more iconic than the original Starship Enterprise? And even within the show, you have these lines where a lot of characters love the Enterprise because it's the TOS Enterprise. Even Reese in here, he talks about like the curves of the 23rd century. I always have to sit back and like take me out of the episode because I'm like, right, Kirk's ship, yes. But are you writing these lines thinking about this thing and going, yes, those curves? Because this isn't, like, people kind of describe, within the show, the 23rd Century Enterprise like it's Kirk's ship, but I really get the feeling they're thinking about this. Especially as, internally, they are definitely going with the interpretation that the Enterprise has always looked like this. Kudos, I think the animated series might be pushing back against that idea because, of course, they would. It's the correct stance. Yes, I'm going to be harsh about it. But I like that this gives us an out because, of course, in Mirror Mirror, the Enterprise looks like it does in TOS. But, hey, this isn't that Enterprise. This is a divergent Enterprise. In fact, we might even say that this isn't a problem due to Spock's reforms. This is a rebellion that happened earlier. So the rebellion happened at a moment where it was still, the Strange New Worlds Enterprise. They didn't have a chance to upgrade. Now, bit weird, because, of course, the Mirror Universe got the Defiant back in Archer's time. So you can assume that the Constitution class, and in fact, probably the entirety of Starfleet, wasn't designed in the Mirror Universe, just copied. But I don't know, maybe they found the archival blueprints and that was easier to build first. I don't know. The point is, I am taking my out. Yeah. Do I expect them to build a brand new set of the TOS Enterprise that looks exactly like the TOS Enterprise when they already have the Stranger Worlds one lying about? No. But if you can't realize a set, don't do it. If In a Mirror Darkly wasn't able to build the TOS set, then they shouldn't have just used, like, Voyager's set, you know? But moving on, again, not too much to say about the beginning. I do really think this is going to be a quick stream. Again, I think this is really what's stopping Discovery from highlighting, is Culber. He's been mentioning how big a lot of the things happening to him are, but it really feels like very suddenly this episode, he's now actually having, like, a serious mental health crisis about everything that's going on to him that just wasn't there before. Like, he's been thinking about, you know, wow, that experience on Trill was crazy and wild. It's so interesting. And then now, like, 2 weeks later, it's actually a crisis. And I'm not sure what's supposed to have happened to him between. It just felt very suddenly like, all right, we need Culber in crisis mode now, so let's do it. Without, like, they did build up to it, but it feels like they skipped something in the middle. You know what I mean? Like, they were working up to it, but we've missed an episode or two of development where something else happened that really made him critical and like, go into sort of a crisis mode and not know what to do about it. Like, he doesn't know how to talk to Paul about what's going on, and so he feels like he doesn't have anyone to talk to, but he has been talking to Burnham about this stuff, and now he has been talking to Tilly, so he's not alone in this. I don't know, again, it's just not handled the best. I'll tell you what, if there's no chat, this is definitely going to be one of those 20-minute classic Discovery streams. Yeah, it's just not a whole lot but my little nitpicks. What is this Earth? Oh, they mirrored it. I forgot they did. I was looking at the red, like, that's not a continent? That's kind of like South America, but it's backwards. And I remembered that, yeah, in Discovery, they decided that Earth was mirrored because it's the mirror universe. Let's if you don't see it, South America, Central America, North America, New York, there's Africa. Let's get that abomination off screen. There we go. Thank you, Michael. I will say the interior not being Stranger Worlds as opposed to TOS actually worked a lot better than I thought I would in this episode. Especially, I think, because you're lighting it differently. It's clearly not the normal look of this Enterprise. I might not have been too fussed about it if it had just been the interior of the Enterprise in, like, prime mirror Constitution class. God, it's getting hard labeling these universes. Moving forward, as much as I liked seeing the sets here in the shuttle bay, I actually feel this is one place we probably could have done with just, like, a verbal summary of how Maul and Mark met. He's the Preen Prince. I used to do courier jobs with him. We fell in love and ran away. That's the story. And I felt like it kind of dragged a bit. Like, there are details, I guess, we're getting about the Breen culture, actually seeing it play out. But to me, it just kind of made it drag a bit, and there was the temptation to kind of get out my phone and read this article about this Reddit post about what non-Doctor Who fans thought about the giggle, because I've been very much enjoying these summaries. This is what I'm doing after the stream. Yeah, the sort of two faces idea of the Breen is interesting. I It kind of gives a reason for the suit. I mean, they haven't said that this is support their sort of more, we'll call it their nebulous face, because, well, Jelly Breen is hilarious. It's also casual alien racism, and we are against that on this channel. Uh, but, yeah, you know, they're a little goopy. I think if you were to go back, whenever Locke's face went a bit weird, he'd always, like, taken off a helmet. And so I've seen some things. I had a little bit of time before the stream, between the episode and the stream, to kind of look at the Reddit and stuff. People are saying that it might be an exposure to air thing that solidifies their faces. And that, you know, I like that explanation for the suit. There are some oddities, though, like when Locke reveals his face. It might as well be this scene. It's a big thing from Maul, where she talks about having seen his one face but not the other one, which literally until, like, the end of the Breen scenes, I thought she was referring to the mask and not the, like, wibbly face. Which, first off, if their wibbly face was an exposure to air thing, it would be weird that Maul had seen the wibbly face but not the real one. Well, quote-unquote real one, the solid one. Like, it's a big thing about how it's part of you just as much as the other face. Like, that's what Maul says. However, every time we see Locke, like, after he opens up to Maul, he's in his more humanoid face that's probably a lot cheaper to do. And so it was a sort of gesture of, I can be myself around you. Like, we don't have to, like, our culture is against this sort of second face that's lesser. You know, it's like the lesser species. They're rejecting something that is actually just a part of us. Kind of similar to how Vulcans would reject the mind meld, or Trill would have the taboo against kind of reliving the same life. Except now it really kind of comes off as Maul sees sort of the solid face that's like her is the real one, and is making Locke wear that one because it's the one she can get along with the most. A lot like what Odo would kind of feel on Deep Space Nine, that he has to be solid or people wouldn't accept him. And Kira, towards the end, was like, once he learns about this, like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, you're my goo man. I want you be your goo man. Like, I didn't know you felt this way. And then, you know, Kira and Odo will have scenes where Odo's in his liquid form because he feels like this is a part of him, and that's like, that is the real him. Whereas Locke is kind of, I'm sure it's not the intent, but Locke is feeling like the character where Kira is guilting Odo into actually feeling like he does have to become solid for her. And it's ruining the kind of romantic vibes, if I'm being honest. Yeah, and it's not the intent, and it's unfortunate, and I get it's a practical thing of, like, CGIing that guy's face is expensive and time-consuming. But again, if you couldn't quite realize the idea, maybe you shouldn't have done it? I don't know, because it seems culturally the jelly wibbly face is what Locke would have been more comfortable with, because it's the one that his society kind of says is the default normal sort of true face, and he's having to put effort into doing this secondary one, which is actually equally him, but it's the private face. Like, if it's something he's showing Maul because he's close to Maul, why is he wearing the private face all the time? Why wouldn't that be something when only he and Maul are together? If he's accepting it as equally a part of him is his jelly face, then why isn't half the time he in, like, his jelly face? This is the part that I'm not really getting, and the way they've presented it, it's really doing a disservice to their relationship to me. Like, there you go. Yeah, that's interesting. It is weird. if the suits preserve this state of being, it's kind of weird that how you would discover it in the first place. Like, I'm sure it could happen, but the other prince guy is like, we've evolved past the need of the solid face, which implies it's a biological state that they don't actually need technology to maintain this form. So I'd like more detail. Again, we're getting more about the Breen. I like that. I'm enjoying it. But we're still kind of like, we're getting very surface level statements that there should be a lot more depth to, and behind it just doesn't quite feel like it. That's the difference. I've worked it out. Is you can kind of describe these species. Okay, no, here it is. In Enterprise, there's the one where Archer is in like a Klingon courtroom, and he's got the defendant played by, it's like J.G. Hertz, isn't it? It's played by the guy who did Martok, I think. And he's talking about like he was a lawyer, and his parents were something that like wasn't warriors. And Archer kind of gives him a weird look or says something, and the Klingon lawyer looks at him as like, did you think we were all warriors? Like, no, we have a society. We've got, like, cooks and chefs and teachers and scientists. Just the warrior class is, like, ruling and gets a lot of benefits. They get too much focus. What classic Star Trek was able to do through, like, so many episodes, and often kind of in one-offs with nice little details, for example, in a modern perspective, the Ferengis' war monument to prophets. There are those little things like that that could kind of show or suggest that there really is a society behind these basic facts, like Klingons are honorable, Klingons like war, Klingons are a warrior culture, sort of thing. That there's actually a whole lot of complexity behind that, and there's like centuries of history that led to what we're seeing now. And what modern Star Trek is doing a lot with their brand new concepts is it kind of feels a lot like they're just getting these Breen have to face. Breen are some kind of monarchy. That sort of thing, without really giving me the sense of like a culture behind it. It's just like a list of how to make them feel alien. It's not a culture so far. It's just it's a summary. It's a Cliff Notes. I mean, I think the Emerald Chain does feel a bit more like an actual society because you have the whole courier system backing it up. Osira has to go through like Parliament and a lot of political maneuvering to actually get her proposed deal to the Federation on the table. I think they do a good job with the Emerald Chain, but even the Gorn. Strange New Worlds Gorn are like almost intentionally reduced to instinctual animals that would never build a starship. And that's what I think I'd really like modern Star Trek to get to, is the world building where it actually feels like there's depth there. Which, yeah, it sure is difficult, but I'm not the writer. You're the one writing Star Trek. I don't have to know how to do it. You're the one who has to know how to do it. I just able to tell when it's missing. It's possible I missed a scene. Yeah, we really don't have a lot to talk about in these middle bits. It's a slower episode. I will say I'm enjoying the pacing of this season compared to all the others, in the sense that there is no major threat. They're trying to really hype up like this scavenger hunt is the most important thing in the universe. And like technically, yes, the Federation is on the line, but narratively that's all true. Tonally, it really doesn't feel like it, and we're really close to just the episodic chill adventures. We're practically doing a different thing every week, which certainly seasons 1 and 2 of Discovery can't say. I'm a little shakier on saying that for 3 and 4, but yeah, like even within the context of our greater quest, I feel we're doing pretty different things compared to seasons 3 and 4. Like season 4 was always going after the 10C and facing the anomaly, But, I mean, the last episode was a filler episode, Kurtzman. Stop pretending that modern Star Trek doesn't have those. Yeah. Oh, well, I did skip ahead. No, there was the bit, maybe I missed a line. I was hoping for a chat today to be able to tell me. I don't understand why Burnham doesn't want Locke to leave sickbay. Like, there's been an explosion. Clearly, whatever plan they had has gone wrong. Like, for the record, I might have missed it because I was trying to read. Did they uneat Saru? I don't understand how the writers forgot about that. But anyway. Like, why not have both Burnham and Locke try and figure out what's going on? What, like, Locke says, Burnham even says, if you want to help Mull, this isn't the way. How do you know? Like, what are you doing? It looks like you're both sitting in sickbay pointing guns at each other. How is that helping Mull? I don't understand. Like, why? And then, yeah, it goes wrong. Mull gets injured. What? Surely it would have been better if you both went up to see what was going on. You didn't seem to be doing anything. Yeah. I don't know. I didn't understand that part. I'm actually... I'm kind of on board. It took me a while to put together that Burnham sent the message, basically, hey, you remember, like, I am calling for aid. And initially I was like, well, how did Raynor know that meant make the wormhole big enough for a starship to pass through? But he knew that because the tractor beam was coming from something much bigger than the shuttlecraft. He just put it together. I like that. That was clever. I think that was a good resolution. Also, again, just showing that Burnham's understanding of Raynor's culture and identity and what he likes can help solve the problems. It could be critical to the mission, which is part of Raynor's arc of kind of learning to know the crew a bit more and changing up his command style to something that's more fitting post-burn. I wasn't a big a fan of... Oh, and I'm a fan that he asked the whole crew, because this is very good show don't tell. He is learning and trying to incorporate the crew and kind of adapt to the new times and the new situation he's in. What felt a bit weird to me is that literally everybody in this room is fully aware of the problem, fully understands the engineering principles of the wormhole and what they need to do to make it bigger, and has suggestions of how to accomplish that don't really seem relative to their station. Kudos, as long as I'm remembering it correctly, to Reese over here, who I believe is the tactical officer, actually giving a suggestion that involves tactical. But I think what I like and what I often see cited about a pro of the ensemble cast and the professionalism is that you would have a group of experts who were like leading experts in their fields, but very different fields, and would always bring things to their table that reflected their expertise and their knowledge, and came from that understanding. Like, Dr. Crusher isn't going to suggest an improvement to the warp drive, and she's not going to get the crew out of a subspace anomaly, because she's a doctor. Why would she know that? But here, it's like, not only was everyone fully aware of the problem that I thought only Tilly, Stamets, Adira, and presumably some engineering staff were. Like, these people have been sitting on the bridge the whole time. But they're able to offer suggestions. Like, maybe navigation suggested something with the deflector beam, and gravity is kind of ops. Honestly, I'm a little confused what ops does in general. Ops has always been the one next to helm. To me, it's like, yeah, it's ops. They do operations, you know? It's just ops. So maybe that aspect is a little bit of false criticism. It could be stemming from just not knowing these characters nearly well enough, which is a problem with the show. But it bothered me that, like, they all kind of just knew what was going on and fully understood the complex, like, You're a pilot. You shouldn't know how a wormhole works, I guess, like to that level of detail. Also, Reese absolutely deserved the wine. Like, he came up with the idea. I give it to everyone, fine, you join with the crew, but Reese deserved it. Reese won. And honestly, I think that's probably it. I noticed Detmer and Awushika? Awu? I don't remember. I choose to call her Awu, is an OWO. But I noticed they're probably going to be missing because they're bringing the Enterprise back to Federation HQ. Let's hope nobody attacks them in the meantime. But here's the weird one, right? I'm not surprised that they're going like a spiritual route for a character. I thought it was going to be Pike. That ship had sailed, but I thought they were setting it up to be Pike way back for like Strange New Worlds. But this felt really weird way to do it. Culber mentioned his abuela, his grandmother, prayed to spirits in a previous episode, which I totally forgot to mention when I did my live review. It felt a bit odd to hear it so casually, but the grandmother of someone from Discovery would be Archer's time-ish. And also, it could be in a sense of, I don't actually believe in, like, these spirits, but I know the sort of family, in the ancestral family especially, is a real big part of many of the Central American cultures that I know Culber is from. I mean, he said abuela, for one. It could just be in a sort of like Day of the Dead festival sense. So it wasn't a big deal. But this was a really weird way to bring it in. I also felt Tilly was weird in a world that doesn't really have human religion. Where, she says something like, oh, you need someone to talk about the spiritual nature. And Culber rightfully is like, I didn't say spiritual. And Tilly looks at him like, yeah, you did. It's sort of like the revelation that's like, oh, I actually am talking about spiritual topics. But, like, he wasn't, right? Like he died, and he came back. Now, this is true. Generically, you might call this spiritual. But if you remember, the reason he came back from death is very scientific and based in the mycelial network, a fact about the multiverse that just exists. And then the whole Trill mind displacement thing is spiritual? There's nothing supernatural about it. Philosophical, sure, but like, sure, can you interpret these events? Can these events lead you down a spiritual path? Yes. Are they inherently spiritual? It's not like, hey, Tilly, I met God. I didn't say spiritual. Oh yeah, you kind of did. It's not like the episode where they meet Satan and it turns out he's not a bad guy, he's just misunderstood. Like, he's gone through very scientific experiences, and the show's like, oh yeah, no, he's religious now. It felt really weird. I'm sort of curious to see how they're gonna handle religion. It's a weird one with Star Trek, isn't it? That we'd grown past religion and superstition, and humanity's just secular in the Star Trek future. But there's always the argument, especially looking at it from a show in current day times, that Star Trek has this message of inclusivity, infinite diversity in infinite ways, and, all that stuff. Except if you're religious, you're not welcome, is kind of the message. It's sort of like, and you're just inherently wrong. Like, it's a bit of a contradiction in the ethos. Not inherently. I mean, humanity not having a religion doesn't mean it's against religion. I mean, like, Starfleet isn't exactly the most accepting when it comes to like the Bajoran faith and whatnot. But it's not like we don't let them in the Federation. They're allowed. Certainly, it's not like persecution, but it's more in like the sense of the message that I feel there's that bit of hypocrisy and the argument that you could introduce religion, and so it might be interesting to see how it goes. I'll tell you what, the fan reactions are certainly going to be interesting. But yeah, it's weird. Where's Culber gonna find religious guidance in the 32nd century? I wonder if they will genuinely turn to like human religions, or if we'll get like a Bajoran maybe, and we'll look at alien faiths. Like I guess I struggle to see a plot line where like we watch a Star Trek crew member discover Christianity or Islam. Christianity. Is it Islam? Whatever, you know what I mean. Because, like, that seems very religious. That seems very, like, way overcorrection. Like, look at me, X religion is the way. This is why you should follow it. But a spiritual character, like a character who already exists, is following a religion. That they could easily do. And of course, a character going down an alien religion, whatever. If Culber's going to discover the prophets, like, yeah, that's not going to throw up controversy. But I struggle to see him actually decide that, like, any individual human faith is the path he's going to go down. So it will be interesting to see, I guess. But that's all in the future. What have we got coming up? Do we have any episode titles that suggest this? Star Trek Discovery, Season 5, Memory Alpha. And then I'm probably going to wrap it out. Oh my god, I hate the... Star Trek Discovery, Season 5, Memory Alpha. I hate the, like, resume browsing thing in Google Chrome. Because it just doesn't ever seem to do anything. And then I have to retype what I've done. Every time they change things, it's worse. Whistle speak. What could that be a reference to? I don't know. I know there are languages that are like whistles and weird, like non-linguistic sounds like that. Ariga. Is that the Breen thing we literally just mentioned? The like blood hunt. That might be how you spell it. Labyrinths, Lagrange point, and life itself. That's a good point. We're literally, like, they've been framing this as finding the species that made us, as if the precursors literally designed, like, humanity and invented life, neither of which they did. But, like, it'd be weird for Culber to discover any religion, any sort of religion with a god, I guess, and then literally meet the engineers of humanity. Like, this plot is almost anti, like, most major religions, at least in the strict interpretation. Like, God or Allah or anyone didn't design humanity. It was these guys. Like... I know that doesn't invalidate the religion by any means. It's like, well, okay, God and Allah designed the precursors. The people who wrote insert holy book here didn't know about aliens. But I guess it's interesting. I'm struggling to see where Culber could go. Maybe they're just teasing the waters to like slowly introduce religion to Star Trek, which I think is the way you'd want to do it, you know, because it's a massive shift to the franchise. But yeah, that'll be interesting where it goes. I mean, personally, the way they've handled this, I am way less into Culber's storyline now. I'm not really interested in a Culber discovers religion storyline at all. But we'll see where it goes, because like the obvious path from like this scene is Culber discovers insert religion here. I just don't see him doing that. That'd be really weird. Who knows? Who knows? Maybe they did, and that's why they've canceled Discovery. Is the executives like, we can't do this. It's too pro insert religion here, like specifically, and against all the others. But we'll see. 51 minutes. Wow, that was longer than I thought I'd go. But as I said, I think I will start wrapping it up. We got 3 weeks from now, we got new Doctor Who. That's probably the biggest highlight on the calendar. But yeah, we'll still just kind of seeing where this show goes. So I will say thank you very much